Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I managed to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. Well, you've heard me talk about my experiences traveling on airplanes and cars and things of that nature. Now, I'm going to talk about airplanes in a different light today. I'm going to talk about airplanes. I'm going to talk first about something that happened to me when I was a child. Okay, when I was a child, we used to travel often to Costa Rica. I have family in Costa Rica, so we used to go visit them almost every year, every summer for the 3 months, the 2.5 months that the school is not in session, summer vacation. So we used to go there. So we went there one day. One day we went, and everything was okay when we went, but something happened on the way back. For context, now, if we used to fly standby, what that means is, my dad used to work for an airline, so we used to non-rev. What that means is, if there's no seats, all the passengers get aboard, and if there's some seats left, you get them. If not, you go back home. And that was one thing. So that was hard, that was stressful. Even for me as a child, because we would run around. So, but let me tell you what happened when we got back. That was just for context. Now, let me explain what happened. Now, after September 11th, if you don't get on the plane, your bags don't get on the plane, or if they're already on the plane, they get pulled if you don't get on or non-rev or something like that. When I say non-revenue, I mean non-revenue. When I say non-rev, I mean non-revenue. So at the time, they didn't do that. But for some reason, when we came back, they left my wheelchair behind. It was going to come back. They were supposed to bring it on the next flight, which was the next day. I don't know if they went to pick it up or they dropped it off, whatever. I don't know what happened there. I was a child, I don't remember, but I remember this happening. I had another wheelchair, but because they made the mistake, we needed them to give us one as a loaner for the 24 hours that was supposed to be, or whatever, 72 hours. So my mom, so I didn't think about doing this because I kind of knew that case needed to be. So I went, and we told an agent they had to get a supervisor and all this. So what happened was, my mom said to me, "Don't say anything about having a wheelchair." I said, I didn't say anything. But what I did is didn't acknowledge anything, and then because I just wanted to just make her understand that I was gonna follow that, because I even felt it was right for them to do that for us. So now let me talk about what happens when we fly now. Okay, but this is security. Now I'm talking about security. Okay, before, when we used to fly when I was a kid, they used to just pat me down and and that's it. So so what they do is then, so what they do is they have an aisle chair. You would sit on the aisle chair. It's like a hand truck. You take your hand, they buckle you in, and they help you with your legs if you can't get them to where they need them. My legs are stiff, I can't get them there. So that's fine. So I transfer myself over there. they put me in this thing, in this hand truck. They call it an out chair. It was a hand truck with a seat on it and seat belts. That's all it is. So I transfer myself away into the plane seat. The funny part is that they that the people that do the transport wear vests, so that the reason they wear these vests, these orange like traffic vests, is so that they don't get trapped on the airplane. Because it would be terrible if you get trapped on an airplane when you're flying when you're not supposed to fly there. That would be terrible. So, okay. So let me talk about security now. How the security worked. They used to pat us down and that's it. That was when I was a kid. They used to just pat us down and that's it. No problem. They just put us on the plane and wait. But now there's some. Okay, they do like a hand search, pat down. So if you're a man, if you're a boy or a man, they use a male. If you're a female girl, they use a female officer, like a TSA agent. But before it wasn't TSA, we just used security people in the airport. So next thing, I'm gonna explain to you how this works now. Now, because of a situation that happened, now they have to. You know how most able-bodied people have to take their shoes off and put them through a metal detector. We can't do that. Most of us can't do that. I, for one, can't. So what they do is they have these swabs on. They have these swabs on the chemical residue swabs. They pass them through. They pass them over the shoes, around the whole bottle, everywhere. They lift up your feet and they do all this. And then they put this in the machine. And then they take another one. Remember, they're doing this with gloves on so they don't contaminate. So the next thing they do is they take this and they take another one of these things and they run it all over the wheelchair. They pat your they check the back of your wheelchair with hands and all this. They do all this. So after they run this swab around, they put the swab back into the same machine. They put a swab into an electronic machine, and then they get a clearance. Of course, they get a clearance because I'm not gonna do. Because if you're, they get a clearance and then let you through. But here comes the other unusual part. The wheelchair agent, the attendant that works for the airport. Every time they have to come take you to put you on a plane, they have to go through security every single time this happens. So imagine this. They have to take off their shoes, take their change out of pockets. So what I know, because I know a friend of mine used to work for an airline, what he said, he used to keep his change in a bag. They keep their change in a bag, so they don't have to dig it out every single time. They just take the plastic bag out, and that's it. The reason I thought about this episode is because thanks to Mama D and Jay, Mama D from Pedal Support, and Jay of F My Work Life. The reason I'm talking up with this is because she had an episode. Mama D had an episode, and she talked to him, and and he was flying on an airline that was very strict. Even before us, they were using this chemical residue detectors. So because of that, I remembered, And I said, well, this is an experience. This is an experience that I'm happy with. But let me say, but because of the pat down process, a lot of people that just go through the metal detector, your family is gone. It's past the metal detector, not gone. They're past the metal detector, but you are still stuck there if you're waiting for mail. Pat down. So I'm like, what is this happening? One time I was coming from. Where was I coming from? I was coming from Maryland. So I was gonna get on the airplane to come back home with my mom, and all of a sudden there's like 4 or 5 women there. So it's so weird because multiple times they yelled this, mail pat down, and I'm like, this is very annoying. I'm actually embarrassing to have to go through this because they had to yell this. And I'm like, this is not it's not very nice. But I'm gonna have to scream this for somebody to come and do this procedure. Oh God, it's not something I like to deal with. It's uncomfortable to get these people to touch on you and all this, and I'm like, no. But that's a procedure. What can we do? We have to follow the procedure. It's something that I don't like, but hey, at least we get to fly. But no, it's something obnoxious. Let me talk about a cruise experience. That's completely different because that's another. They still have TSA, but they didn't really. They kind of pat you down a little bit, but they don't do much because they know that your wheelchair can't do much can't do much, and the reason why they're so concerned when it comes to aircraft. It's because they're afraid of flammables. I didn't know at the time, but I've watched a few flight attendant videos, and that's why I learned it's flammables. So it's so hard. But let me tell you, still it's annoying to get patted down and have to wait for this thing in the way they speak. I don't know why they just don't use their radios and quietly say that amongst themselves. That's one thing I don't understand. Because if they got a problem, they can get a radio and call the police real quick. I don't know why they can't just call each other on those radios and get everything and do what they need to do. That makes no sense. Why would they still have to yell this pat down thing? Why? It's annoying. It's not something we want to do, but we have to fly. It's so interesting that we still have to get patted down. There's no other way for security, and I get it. I understand it because it's hard, but at least again they have procedures. Thank you TSA for having that. Sometimes they have They also have something called TSA Cares. I've heard about it, but I've never used it. I never used it because I don't know why I've never used it. With that, thank you for listening. In closing, let me say thank you for listening to this episode of The Disabled Life. You can follow me on the following platforms. You can follow me at Good Pods. You can leave comments, messages there. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Disabled Guy. And you can also listen to me on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and many others. Once again, thank you for listening. And And I'll also give you my email. My email is Kilo Echo 4, Kilo Echo Yankee, or KE4KEY at gmail.com. Once again, thank you. And thank you for your support. And I'll see you next week. When I recorded that outro, I did not realize that I could also get ratings on Apple Podcast, and you can also leave comments there too. I would appreciate ratings, star ratings, and